Hi guys, Jim Aspel, Farmington, Connecticut, workers' compensation attorney. I've been meaning to do a video for a while on the subject of job searches because it's a question that comes up relatively frequently in our practice. So job searches in a Connecticut workers' compensation claim arise when an employee, an injured worker, is temporarily partially disabled. There's a number of different things that can happen to you if you get injured. If you're severely injured and you're unable to work at all, typically you're going to go to your medical provider and the doctor is going to totally disable you from any work whatsoever. That's what we call TT, or temporary total disability. You see that in the more serious injuries and things of that nature. More frequently, and a lot more common, however, is an instance where you're hurt on the job. You go to a walk-in to Concentra or something of that nature. The doctor evaluates you and they say, well, we understand that you're injured, but you're not completely disabled from doing any work, and they send you on your way with some restrictions. 5-pound lifting restriction, 10-pound lifting restriction, no overhead work, no fingering and handling, things of that nature. Those are what we call a modified work release. So you're not totally disabled, you're partially disabled. We consider that TP, temporary partially disabled. So you leave Concentra and you go back to your employer and you say, boss, I got this work release and I'm partially disabled. I got a 10-pound lifting restriction. I understand that my job, normally I'm lifting 50 pounds or doing something of that nature, but I've got this temporary partial work. Can you accommodate me? So a couple things can happen. If the employer can accommodate you, they're going to say, sure, come on back to work. We're going to put you in a late duty capacity, and they're going to allow you to continue to work for that employer, doing modified work while you heal, while you go through your treatment, and so on. A lot of times the temporary partial assignment can go on indefinitely. Some employers, depending on their policy, do have a limited length of time that an employee can be on temporary partial. So that's typically how that works. A lot of times though, and probably more often I would say, the employee goes back to the employer and says, well, here I am, I've just left Concentra and I've got this 10-pound lifting restriction. And the boss says, well, that's too bad. But we need you to be able to work, to be able to lift and carry 50 pounds to do the job. We can't accommodate you. What then? Well, in that instance, you're temporary partial, and that's where the job searches come into play. Just because your employer can't accommodate you doesn't mean that you're not eligible for workers' compensation. In Connecticut, if the employer can't accommodate your late duty, they're going to continue to pay you your regular salary, and that's going to kind of, you're going to do that late duty job, but it's essentially going to be business as usual for you. If the employer can't accommodate you and you've got this temporary partial restriction, we're going to have to put you on job searches. So basically, job searches is the workers' compensation way of saying we're not going to give you money for doing nothing. So how that works, if the employer can't accommodate you, you're going to call us up and we're going to say, all right, we have to put you on job searches. How does that work? The state handily gives us a form, which is called a Records of Employment Contract form. And what it does, it's a form, sets out various things, your name, your employer's name, the date of the injury, and that sort of thing. And in order to be eligible to collect benefits, you have to look for 5 jobs a week. So you go out and you look for 5 jobs consistent with your restrictions. 1 a day. If you want to do 5 in one day, it doesn't really matter. You fill out the form with the 5 places you've looked for work. You send them to us, to your workers' compensation attorney. We send them on to the adjuster, and in turn, the adjuster is going to send you your workers' compensation check in due course. You send us the form, we send it to the adjuster, they send you the check, beep, boop, bop. It continues on every week until you reach maximum medical improvement. So what has to happen with regards to the quality of the job searches? You have to put in more than a half-hearted effort on these things because the adjusters are looking at them, and if they want to give you a hard time, they're going to give you a hard time. They're going to take a look at who it is you're contacting, what the type of the job is. Is the job you're applying for consistent with the restrictions that you have? Is it consistent with your training? I've had instances where I've had a stonemason send me a job search form and they've applied to be the maestro of the Hartford Symphony Orchestra. Now, obviously, the injured worker meant that as a bit of a joke, and they were probably 40 or 50 weeks into job searches, and they were getting sick of doing it. But the point is, if you're applying for a job that you're in no way qualified to do, it's not going to fly. The commissioner's not going to accept it, the adjuster's not going to accept it, and in the long run, you're not going to be paid. So really, every week, you got to give us the form with a job that's consistent with the restrictions, with a job you're qualified to do. So long as you do that, there's essentially not going to be any problem. Now, where do you look for a job? Back in the old days, you go knock on doors, there's a help wanted sign in the window, talk to the manager signs the form, you do 5 of those every week, you bring them to us, we send them to the adjuster, you get paid. Those days are long gone. Then we moved on to newspaper classified ads, the help wanted. Same thing, they're not really, you're not seeing a lot of help wanted ads any longer either. Most of the jobs out there are posted on the internet. So from my perspective, acceptable places to look for a job, Craigslist, you see a lot of labor jobs, or jobs consistent with the late duty restrictions listed on Craigslist. Another place, Indeed, indeed.com. Snag a Job is another one. There's a whole bunch of job sites out there for you to look for jobs. And these online job searches are perfectly acceptable to the commissioner. They're perfectly acceptable to the adjuster. The problem arises in verifying these. So, there's no actual person the adjuster can typically call and say, well, did John actually contact you and look for a job? In that instance, what we ask you to do is, as a backup, when you click submit and you apply to that job online, you're going to get a confirmation page. So what the commissioners are asking for, and what would make my life infinitely easier as your attorney, keep that confirmation sheet. So you apply for ABC Company to be a receptionist. Hit click for submit. They're going to print out a confirmation page. Thank you for submitting your job to ABC Company for the receptionist. Keep the 5 job submission receipts with your job search form. You don't need to submit them, but if they're ever called into question, if the adjuster ever says, we don't really think that John did these searches, you can say, hey, here's my backup. I submitted them. The commissioner is always going to be in your corner so long as you can back those up. So that's kind of the long and the short of it with job searches. If your employer can accommodate your restrictions, you don't need to worry about it. You just continue to do your job as normal, easy peasy. If the employer cannot accommodate your restrictions, we are going to put you on the job searches. You're going to get them to us, and for the, to reiterate, we're going to get them to the adjuster. They're going to cut you a check. If for some reason your weekly check doesn't come, and occasionally that does happen, you're going to let us know. We'll reach out to the adjuster and get that taken care of for you. So long as you're applying for jobs consistent with your restrictions, 5 a week, and get them to us in a timely manner, you're not going to have any problem. Job searches, they're a necessary evil to a workers' compensation claim, but they beat the alternative. The alternative being you're not getting paid. So keep your lights on, do the light duty job searches in a conscientious and timely manner, and there won't be any difficulty. The compensation carrier will pay you. We're here in your corner. We're going to guarantee that you get paid, okay? You have any difficulty, feel free to give us a call in Farmington, 860-523-8783, and I look forward to talking to you the next time. Thank you.